Hey, Amelia, how are you? Good. And Amelia, Amelia's up first, right?
Yeah.
Amelia, are you up first? Okay. So we'll go ahead and do some just initial reminders for the day. There we go.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So if you are, let's see, if you're looking for the link that's up there in the first pod, sorry, getting distracted by emails coming in. So we'll go ahead and hide that. If you guys need it, just let me know and I can upload those links at some point during the webinar. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to start out with introduction and reminders. Just kind of talk about what's going on in our world here at SSI and StarNet. And then you can see our schedule of events. And Amelia, I'm going to turn your video off just for a minute until we transition over. Amelia Chapman's going to be talking from NASA's Museum Alliance. Heather Doyle is going to be talking about the Solar System Ambassadors. Vivian White, Night Sky Network. Kevin Hussey is going to be sharing the screen and talking a little bit about NASA's Eyes On program. We have Emma Marcucci over here that's going to be talking about NASA's Universe of Learning. And then Brian Day will be kind of finishing things up, talking about the Trek program. If you have questions, you can feel free to throw them in the chat box at any time. I'll pull those over and store them. So if they don't get answered during the presentation, they will be answered later during our Q&A session. All right. So we will, just a heads up, we're going to be transitioning through a lot of speakers and everything. So we've done all of our tech tests, all of our video tests and everything, but just give us a little time to transition as we move from speaker to speaker. So of course, we always talk about the Star Library Network. That's likely how you all heard about this webinar today. We would love if you would go join the Star Library Network if you haven't already. Super easy to sign up. And we send newsletters once or twice a month that just talk about a lot of awesome free STEM activity resources that you can take advantage of. So we have webinars, newsletters, blogs, forums, videos, and much more. And I just want to say a quick note about our webinars. This will be likely our last one for about a month or two. We want to give you guys a break during summer reading. And when we come back, we'll be using a different webinar platform. I'm not going to say too much about that on our recorded Adobe Connect webinar recording, but we will be on a different platform that will hopefully be very easy for everybody to use. All right, next note, is anybody heading to ALA out there? You can write yes in the chat box, or you can throw that hand icon up in the top right. I know I asked this last time, but if you are coming to ALA, we would love to see you. We have a lot of cool stuff that we're giving away. We're going to be at the NASA booth. SSI, Emma, some of the folks you'll be hearing from today, I believe, will be at the NASA booth as well. And so we'll have a lot of giveaway stuff. We'll be doing hyperwall talks. If you've never seen a hyperwall, well, I assume most of you haven't. Look it up. It's really, really cool. It's this cool NASA thing where they have multiple high-def screens. Yeah, Lori, I see that you're hardcore into summer reading by then. That's what I imagine. The timing always doesn't work out too great. And then we have 3 sessions you can see up there. I'm talking about different partnership opportunities with after-school providers. We'll be doing a session on just like fun tech connections you can integrate into your STEM activities. And then Annie will be leading a session on, on the 2017 eclipse. And kind of reflecting on that. So please come by, come see us, come get some pretty cool NASA stuff, come see our sessions. All right, so I know you guys can't read this, and that's not necessarily the point, but I wanted to talk just a little bit about our review system on the clearinghouse. I know I've been promoting this a lot and talking to you all about that, but we are really, really, really trying to find an effective way to make our STEM activity clearinghouse like this great community of people leaving reviews and suggesting other things to librarians. So when you go and do an activity and you have something really good to say about it, even if you have something bad to say about it, please, please, please go and leave a review. We have a nice little sorting system so you can review different aspects of an activity. It's not just a 1 to 5 rating. You can rate, like, was it easy to facilitate? Kind of, were the instructions clear? And we have some wonderful reviews here from, I don't know, I bet that's Kendra Mollison and Heather Beverly, 2 of our STEM rock stars that we work with. And I think this is the last little reminder. The cool NASA event of the summer, in my eyes at least, is the Parker Solar Probe launch. The launch window opens up in late July to early August. And we've done a lot of work with this. I know you all are probably already, have your summer programming. But if you're looking for that one big NASA connection to get people jazzed up and excited about STEM, then the Parker Solar Probe launch would be a great opportunity to do some programming around. Or if you just want to learn more about it, it's really fascinating. It's going to be encountering very, very high temperatures and coming within 4 million miles of the sun, which if you think of a football field, it's like going to be within the 3 yards next to the end zone. So we are quite excited about that mission. All right, so Amelia, if you want to go ahead and pull your audio and video up, and we'll get started and transition over to you.
All right, guys, so it's Annie. Hey. So we have just a couple minutes for each of our NASA speakers today. You can think of it as NASA speed dating with all the cool resources that you can get. So our first speaker today, once she gets her video up and her mic on, is Amelia Chapman. Amelia is the STEM Informal Education Specialist at NASA's Museum Alliance. The Museum Alliance and Amelia in particular have been very good friends to many of our libraries who are probably even on the call today. I'm sure among other great things, Amelia is going to tell you how you can join this great network.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yep, sound good.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for letting me go first. As mentioned, I'm with NASA's Museum Alliance. It's headquartered here at JPL, and fun fact, I am out of my office because they're jackhammering it. But I'm in the spacecraft assembly facility building, and they are building the Mars 2020 rover downstairs, and we've got this whiteboard behind me that I thought you'd appreciate seeing. So I'm going to start off actually with, I have some polls, and I think that Emma and Brooks are the ones that put those up. I want to start with the polls real quick, just so I can kind of get a feel for the room and make sure I'm talking about all the right things. So I don't know if people are seeing this yet, but the first question is trying to ask you why you want NASA resources. What is it for supporting? Is it for supporting all-age science festivals, special events? Is it for staff development? Is it for teen groups? Go ahead and take those polls, and I will take your answers into account as I go forward. All right, well, as you do that, I'm going to get started. So NASA's Museum Alliance, as it says there, it's a community of practice. Of course, the poll is covering my slides. A community of practice that provides access to NASA resources for informal educators. The whole purpose of NASA's Museum Alliance is that NASA has so much stuff available, so many resources that are all free, but the problem is they have so much stuff. So the role of NASA's Museum Alliance is to help you get what you need. I kind of call it, we're like a concierge service, if you will. Our role is to connect informal educators with NASA and connect NASA with informal educators. I'm going to be talking about the main ways we do this and just kind of give an overview. Again, I run that, and then my colleague Jeff Nee. It's just the two of us basically running that. So it looks like people are taking the survey.
Yeah, Amelia, do you want me to go ahead and launch those results?
Sure.
And then I can get those off the screen for you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, great.
And can you guys see the results for that?
Well, I see them, and I can talk about them. It looks like lots of people need NASA resources for all ages festivals. That's kind of what I was thinking. People have events like the Eclipse or STEM days. Also, summer camps and after school looks like the key thing. And the thing that people most want by a landslide appears to be hands-on activities and lesson plans. All right, that is awesome. If you have other things you want to say, go ahead and throw them in the text box or ask them when we get to the Q&A part. All right, so if we can go to the next slide, please. We're going to pop through these pretty quick. So like I said, we have a couple different platforms. And Brooks, if you could just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and they'll just add in here. Yeah, one more. Okay. So we have 4 different platforms. We have our member website, which I'll be showing you in a little more detail in a moment. That we have searchable resources. So basically, we are, like I said, always looking for resources for you, and we gather them and put them up on the website. We have a calendar, and this is actually available to the public as well. I'll show you that a little closer. For members only, I'm sorry, the website resources are members only as well. For members only, the live briefings, we offer several a month, and the whole idea is that we bring in NASA experts to talk about things that are going to be in the news. So we're giving you the sneak peek, we're giving you the chance to talk to them, get the scoop on what's happening so that you can be planning ahead. And then, of course, we also offer direct assistance to members. And you can go to the next slide. All right, so our member website looks something like this. Although it's usually sliding around and moving when you're looking at it live. Like I said, the member website is actually somewhat available to the general public. If you go to the next slide, I'll show you kind of the key difference. If you're logged in like I am when I took this screenshot, you can see the circled areas. All of those areas in blue where it has different, science, earth, all that, that's where the resources are. It expands and opens up, and there's tons and tons of resources, and you can also be searching for them. Okay, you can go to the next slide. All right, so like I said, our member website has these searchable collections. And when I say resources, I mean exactly what you guys are asking for. Activities, lessons plans, things you can print out, posters, videos, video games, etc. You do the next slide. Next slide, yeah, thank you. So just looking at some of the more recent ones we put up, for example, we gathered these around themes. So the 50th anniversary of the Apollo mission and the moon landing are coming up next year. So we're definitely been doing this for a while, gathering information to help support anyone who wants to do stuff about that. We put together a Teen Tech Week resource. Keep updating that. That's up there. You can read these, everything from Girls in STEM to Star Wars. All right, next slide. Okay, this is where we get a little technical. I'm going to hopefully share my screen. So I think they have to give me access to that. I'm going to give you a chance. Oh, look at that. All right, so I'm going to show you what our website looks like, and the calendar in particular. So this is what the Museum Alliance site looks like if you just are a member of the public. It's got upcoming events and featured events here from the calendar. But we're going to go straight to the calendar. And sorry, my screen is a little small. Let me see if I can expand it. Okay. All right, so for example, here we are, the Museum Alliance calendar. It pops up here in this details look. You can also look at it different ways, like a table. But for example, today, if you looked at the calendar, you'd know that this telecon is taking place. You can find out about that. So on the calendar here, we have all sorts of different topics: aeronautics, astrophysics, comets, asteroids, Mars, etc., and event types. Like, is this an annual historic event? Is it something that's happening in the sky? Is it a mission event, etc.? So you can, if you're looking you're saying, oh, I want to do some programming on Mars, for example, or about Mars on Earth. You can just say, I want to see what are all the events coming up about Mars. So I've done that. And so these are events. So there's going to be a NASA Educator Professional Development webinar about Mars. There's a live discussion tomorrow when they're announcing some science results. I can't give you a spoiler. I don't know what they are. Anniversary here. So you can search by that kind of topic, or for example, you could search by the event type. So I could say, oh, I want to know, are there any fun anniversaries or holidays coming up that I could tie into? So I could say, oh, coming up at the end of June is International Asteroid Day. That's an annual event. LGBT STEM Day is coming up on July 5th. Anniversaries like Sally Ride becoming the first U.S. woman in space, for example. Put that back. So hang on a second. All right. So the reason I wanted to show you the calendar is I think this is probably particularly useful to libraries. It really helps you do some planning. If you have social media, it gives you fun little facts that you can throw on there. A lot of what's on here are online webinars that you can participate in, your volunteers, your staff members can participate in. Also, there's a lot of deadlines and opportunities that are on here. So, for example, if you look under registration deadline, tonight, there's a registration deadline for participating in a NASA social, where social media folks get to come to NASA and cover events, just like any member of the media. So things like that, I just wanted to make sure to draw that to your attention. That is a great resource. All right, I'm going to switch back to the meeting room and stop sharing. Hopefully that worked. All right, great. We're back to our slides. All right, can I go to the next slide, please? All right, like I said, I wanted to give you a little more information about the presentations with NASA experts. We offer these a couple times a month. Like I said, they're live. So you can ask questions. They share their presentation materials, so you are allowed to take their slideshow and use it whole or cut and paste it and reuse it. We give you all the key links and websites, and then of course we archive them by recording and in transcript form, so you can access them later. We have over 500 of these archived on our site. All right, next slide. All right, this is how to find us. I already put the little web address in the chat box, and I know it's also in the links that were put together for this talk. So once again, that was a really brief overview of NASA's Museum Alliance. I encourage you all to go check it out. I encourage you all to become members so you get full access, and you can also ask me any questions you have at the end of the talk. Thank you. I see that someone's already asked a question. Are these the sort of things that we could broadcast live in the library? Yes, there's lots of things that are happening online from NASA that you can broadcast live. Something I forgot to mention, like for example, on that calendar, in May, for example, there were over 50 items that were happening, including a lecture about how Juno is doing out at Jupiter. That's a live lecture that takes place here at JPL, but it's broadcast live and it's also archived. So you could totally use these resources either live or replay them later, do a lunchtime lecture type thing.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, so do you want to, maybe we'll address that one at the end about how do you become a member?
Exactly.
Okay, great.
It's easy though.
Okay.
It's easy.
So we will go ahead and, yeah, Anne, do you want to introduce our next speaker?
So up next is Heather Doyle from the Solar System Ambassadors. I'm sure many of you are already familiar with the Solar System Ambassadors from the great work they did helping libraries with the eclipse last year. Heather, Sarah now. Hi, Sarah. Heather's going to tell us a little bit more about the program.
Thank you so much. Yes, it was a pleasure to work with libraries for the Eclipse. That was such a great, successful partnership, and thank you so much for inviting us to partner with libraries. I personally love to read. I love libraries. Thank you so much for all you do for your communities, because you're such an important resource for families and your communities. So thank you so much for all that you do. For those of you who aren't aware of what the Solar System Ambassadors Program is, you can see on the first slide here what the website is. There's actually a video on our homepage where you can see a solar system ambassador in action. But basically, they are expert volunteers that tell NASA's story in their community. It's as simple as that. So we train them via those telecons and live briefings that Amelia was referring to. We share those with the Museum Alliance. So they get trained directly with NASA mission scientists and engineers, getting the latest information so that they can share that directly with you in the libraries, as well as they go to museums and schools, many different places. And we have about, let's see, I'm trying to go to the next slide. There we go. We have about 908 ambassadors, and you can see there's at least one in every state. So the program started 20 years ago, so we've built it up to that many. We also have some who are living abroad, and they're usually on military bases overseas, serving Americans overseas. So what do? They do a wide variety of things, and it depends on what the ambassador is most comfortable doing. So some ambassadors like to give presentations, some like to do hands-on activities and get dirty and kneel down with the kids, some give lectures, some actually write posts on social media, or they write articles for their local newspapers. So they really know what's best for their local communities, and they try to work with their local venues to decide what do people want, how can I help provide the information that people need. We already talked about this a little bit. They are trained via the telecons, and we have more than 500 archived. So if they are not up to date on something, they can go back and review it at any time. So even if you have an ambassador that really loves talking about Mars, if you'd like them to talk about something else, they can certainly do that by going back and reviewing the archives. So they're pretty flexible about what they can discuss and talk about. Here's a closer look at our website and how you can find an ambassador near you. So we have a directory which looks like a big map, and you can find an ambassador by looking at state, and you can zoom into the map. It's just a Google map. Or if you happen to know an ambassador's name, you can look them up by last name. If you have any issues with contacting an ambassador in your local area, like you didn't hear back from them for some reason, I put our email address there so you can contact us directly, and we can help connect you with somebody close by who can serve as a person who can come in and give presentations in your library. Some of the milestones coming up soon where ambassadors can help is with our Insight Landing coming up the Monday after Thanksgiving. If you want to talk about your local audiences to that, our ambassadors have been briefed. I think they've had 5 telecons so far on that one, so they're pretty good. Also, right after Thanksgiving, New Horizons is going to fly by Bennu. So it's going to reach Bennu and start orbiting. So that'll be another cool one to talk about within your communities. Just another thing that ambassadors can do is star parties. I know that you might be familiar with the Night Sky Network as well, but ambassadors can do that too. They often have their own telescopes as well. Why they're ambassadors? I think this is one that you can probably think of, but most ambassadors just really love NASA and they want to share that love with their community. So you'll find that they're really good-hearted, they're really knowledgeable, and they just want to help. And so there's one ambassador there helping a little girl at a festival. You were talking about you always need lessons and hands-on activities for festivals. And here she is last year when she visited JPL with that same ambassador, and she's going on to major in engineering. So that's kind of a cool success story, if you will, from the ambassador program. So that's all I have to share with you today, and I'll be welcome to take questions at the end. If you want to become a solar system ambassador as well, you're welcome to do that. Every library could have an ambassador, so you can also find out about that on our website. We accept applications every September.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Heather. That was great. I'll go ahead and close your video pod out for now, and I believe we'll be...
Excellent. Yeah, and I know that I think Heather or Kay were telling me that there was a couple of librarians that signed up to be ambassadors because of all the great work they did for the eclipse, so that's pretty exciting. So our next speaker is Vivian White. Vivian is with the Night Sky Network, and again, the amount of work that Night Sky Network volunteers did for the eclipse was just beyond our expectations, and we hope once you're done hearing from Vivian, more of you will be able to take advantage of that.
Hi, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here with you. Calling you from cold San Francisco. It's summer here. And I want to tell you about the NASA Night Sky Network. And we are a...
Hey, Vivian, could I interrupt you real quick? Do you want to hit start sharing for the webcam?
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, that'll help. I can
Awesome. Thanks.
Now you can see me. Hi.
Yeah, we can
help. Excellent. So thanks so much for having me. I just put the Night Sky Network, thanks Greg, URL in the chat there, and I know it's also in the slides as well. So the Night Sky Network is going to be your new best friend, and I'll tell you why. So I know from my own library and my child that we go to the library often, and I know you have great exhibitions at your library. You have lots of hands-on activities and reading sessions with young kids. And I have seen it happen before, and I was happy to be there because some kid will be like, hey, why does the moon have phases? Or why does the sky blue? Or, hey, how do we talk to aliens? And it's not something that everybody has the background to talk about, but don't panic. You have this resource at your fingertips. I want to show you. Across the U.S., we have more than 450 clubs, and there's a very good chance there's one close to you. So you don't have to worry. These are astronomy clubs are enthusiasts about talking about astronomy with anyone who will listen. They are also like Heather was saying, really excited and compassionate and want to help you at your library. So you can always connect with an amateur astronomy club in your area, and I'll show you how to do that. Amateur astronomy clubs already interact with their libraries in their communities. So I think we have hundreds and hundreds. I think last year we had 450 library events that they reported on, which means there were probably 10 times that. They often will have their club meetings in libraries. They'll give presentations at libraries, and I'm going to show you how to use the Night Sky Network to find what it is you're looking for and how they can be a really cool resource for libraries. So I'll just really quickly show you a couple of features on the Night Sky Network so you know where to look. You can either put in your zip code in this current location, and that will get you to your clubs and events. Or you can push clubs and events. That will tell you where all the clubs and events near you are. And then you can pick from anyone who's close to you. I'm sorry, that was kind of an extra slide. And I'll tell you about those clubs in a second. But I did see that you wanted to, oops, hold on, these are in a different order than there we go. Okay, well then I'll tell you about them now. Mine are in a different order. When you get there, there is a contact information. You can also go up and request an event. That's a really nice thing if you would like to have an amateur astronomer come to your library to give a talk, to bring a telescope. They have solar telescopes. They have, of course, telescopes for viewing the night sky. These are excellent resources, people who can come to your event. They're even often participants in like an Ask an Astronomer night, which is really fun. We like to do those. And they also, some clubs will work with you to create a library telescope program. That's kind of an exciting new program that clubs are doing across the country. So if you would like to have a telescope in your library that you can check out, that's a really fun way to do so. And there's an amateur astronomer likely nearby who can help you facilitate that. If you can't find someone, give me a holler and I can put you in touch with someone. Let's see. Yeah, the other thing that you were all asking about are these outreach resources. So I turned off my lights. I don't know if this is going to work. Okay, yeah, look. Oh, backwards. Hold on. 2 shakes. There are lots of ideas for demos about different astronomy topics, such as, doesn't really work on here, does it? Why the moon has phases. You can also find under those outreach resources things like if you have a conversation about water, say in your for Earth Day, I'm just making that up, or you want to read a book about water, you can look towards things that we have on exoplanets. These are extreme organisms and extreme environments, and it talks about different kinds of bacteria and organisms that are found on Earth. Oh wait, where's my favorite? Let me get you the Yeti crab kind of wins every time. But they have, this is the kids' favorite, snotites. They're really fun activities that you can do talking about the places where we find extremophiles here on Earth and how that's leading us to looking for life on other planets. So it engages a different kind of interest in space science that a lot of people and kids in particular have. So that's a fun way to access these demos. And let's see what order these are in. Yeah, every day you'll have a featured activity on the front page. This one is standing in the shadow of the Earth, which you can, as you're looking at a beautiful sunset, if you look the other way, you can also see the Earth's shadow rising in the east, which is kind of exciting, and just talking a little bit about that. There's also a night sky planner. Let's see if that slides on here. Nope. A night sky planner is there, and that will tell you about what's up in the sky coming up. So it's got the JPL What's Up video that comes out every month about what's going on in the night sky. It's also got sky maps and other resources that you can use for planning events, which is kind of exciting. What else do we have? Yeah, I wanted to give you a couple of tips for working with clubs. These are all volunteers, so we are all lucky to get paid to do what we love. These volunteers, their payment is in oohs and ahs of the people who look through their telescopes. So, but being volunteer, they mostly have day jobs, so you want to plan ahead and try and connect with them as early as you know you're going to need them, because often they have like monthly events, and that's where they'll put out a call for people who might be interested in joining a library event. You might want to visit a club star party. They're really fun, and you'll get to know the people there. You might even become an amateur astronomer yourself. I highly recommend it. Also, if you're doing events in the evening and it's the winter or cold where you are, be sure to have some warm beverages and things like that, because they'll be standing outside for a long time at the telescopes. And I know that I have a couple of really nice thank you notes pinned up on my refrigerator that mean a lot to me when I go and do volunteer work. So if you can think to thank them with notes or bookmarks, it really doesn't take much, but they will come and do events for you when they're able to for free. So the Night Sky Network is a great way to interact with your local clubs. They see themselves as part of your community, not necessarily a Night Sky Network club. So they'll be for example, the San Francisco amateur astronomers. But this is a way for you to connect with them and connect with some of the resources that NASA provides for them via the Night Sky Network. So we give them lots of tools, like the ones I was showing you, lots of outreach resources that they can use. These are fabulous for use in libraries. And so I hope that will be of use to you. And I hope you contact your local astronomy club. Let's see, I have one more. Yeah. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer anytime. Give me a holler or visit the website.
All right. Thank you, Vivian. That was great.
Okay.
So we'll close you out.
Bye, Vivian. Bye. All right. Next up is Kevin Hussey. Kevin is the Manager of Visualization Technology Applications and Development at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Kevin's going to show you some really cool applications that we've actually had in a couple dozen libraries around the country that have been super duper popular, and he's going to tell you how you can get them for yourself.
Yeah, and Kevin, you can go ahead and come on your video and your audio. I think you wanted to screen share at some point, so just give me a heads up when you're ready to screen share, and I'll get that going for us.
All right, so let me go ahead and turn on my video. Can you hear me, first of all?
Yep.
All right, good. You just can't see me. That's probably good. You can't see me, but I saw the button. I just got a really bad haircut yesterday. So, honest, I can't find the video. Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Duh. Okay.
Yeah, and then remember to hit start sharing as well.
So, this is my demo hat. All right.
Wait, hit start sharing, Kevin.
Sorry.
You're good. Everybody shield your eyes. Perfect.
Demonstration hat, my official demonstration hat. So I feel much more comfortable with this on. Okay, so today I'm going to take you on a whirlwind how to get eyes and what it can do for you. And to do this, I want to share the screen. If you could maximize my screen sharing area, Brooks, the way we spoke yesterday, that would be helpful. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And you will see my desktop. And I'm going to go ahead and click on share. Okay, so we're going to ignore that phone call. And the first thing is you need to download and install NASA's Eyes. Okay, and it's just a downloadable app. You install it, and when you do, you will get on your desktop this icon that I'm showing here that says NASA's Eyes. All right. Now, when you start NASA's Eyes, I'm going to just go ahead, when you download it and you start it, you're going to get these choices. You're going to get the ability to look at eyes on the Earth, eyes on the solar system, and eyes on exoplanets. Everything I'm showing you right now is live. This is a live demonstration. I'm going to click on Eyes on the Earth and show you what we call the full version of Eyes on the Earth. I'm going to go full screen. Now this is the globe, as you can see, and you can do all sorts of things. You can put up, this is a picture of the entire Earth from yesterday. Here is the carbon monoxide distributions for the entire planet for today and back 2 days. So it's a 3-day running average. Here's the surface temperature, the daytime temperature, and I can actually click on Saudi Arabia to see that their temperature is around, I got to move this, I do be connecting, their temperature is 108 degrees average during the daytime. So you can actually see values. But for museums, there are too many buttons here. If you look at, for example, if you click on data sets, you can see that there's all these choices. There's all these missions. There's all these data sets. There are animations on top. There's all this stuff. And museums said there's just too much. So we came up with kiosk versions. And I'm going to demonstrate those now. Right? So Eyes on the Earth is very powerful. You can go back like 15 years and look at data, but it's just too much in a museum or library setting. So what we did was we created a program here, you can see it maybe, called Configure NASA's Eyes. Now we're going to configure NASA's Eyes to run what we call the kiosk mode. And I've done that, and there's another icon that says Eyes Kiosk 3-button mode. So when I double-click it, you're going to see a screen that has 3 buttons. Eyes on the Earth, Eyes on the Solar System, Eyes on Exoplanets. The difference being, when you do this in an institution, we would recommend that you set in the configuration file that this particular screen would become full screen so that users can't get to the desktop of the computer. So we have these running all over the place. You can't get to the desktop if you configure it that way. But here I've done this so I can move around more easily. Now I'm going to launch Eyes on the Earth again, but the kiosk mode. And when I click on it, you're going to see this, it'll automatically launch in full screen, and it will look very different than the full Eyes on the Earth. From the 40 button choices or so, we've boiled it down to just 4 choices. Latest events, Earth selfie, ride along with satellites, and vital signs. Now I showed you some vital signs. So I'm going to click here and say we want to look at global temperature. Okay. Now we demonstrate, we tell you to click and drag. This works on a touchscreen as well. And it's much simpler. They can choose between Celsius and Fahrenheit. They can still go to the next vital sign, which in this case is sea level variation. We have carbon dioxide, and we've got a 12-year animation of this showing from 2002. Oh, actually, not in this case. Well, this is from 2002 to 2016. You can see the concentrations. So anyway, the point is that for each of our flagship apps, Earth, EXO, and Solar System, there are kiosk versions. And if you configure it to have an exit button, when you go back to the main menu and I exit, it drops you back to this, what could be full screen selection. So now I'm going to choose Eyes on the Solar System. I'm going to try to get through all 3. Give me a 1-minute warning there, Brooks, if you would. In fact, can you hear me? Uh-oh. I can't hear anybody.
Hey, yes, you're there. You're good. You're in full screen, so you're good.
So I'm going to go ahead and start this. You get to choose between miles and kilometers. And with that configuration program I showed you, you can make it so it can only have 1 unit, both units. And then here, for all of Eyes on the Solar System, which has about 100 choices initially, we've broken it down into these 4 categories. I want to pick highlights and show if they hit the Cassini highlight, then we load an actual visualization from the perspective of the satellite during the mission. Now, this looks like an animation, but it's not. Okay? To prove it, you can see a little button here that says Change Spacecraft View. So now we're watching it from the side. And that's real time, by the way. That's how fast Cassini flew past Enceladus, through the plumes, about 27 miles off the surface. There's the view from the bottom. Here's the view from the top of the Saturnian system, and then back to looking at Cassini. Now, I can spin around and look at it any way we want, but this is the kiosk version. I can go back to the main menu. We can look at people profiles. I can go ahead and go to certain destinations, like, hey, let's go to Pluto. Click on Pluto. We load. We go to Pluto. But this is designed for simple use in museums and science centers. One of the favorite functions in this particular version is compare size. So we're comparing Pluto with our moon. We can compare it with Mercury or Saturn. So you get the idea. It's a simplified version. I'm going to go back to the main menu, hit exit, and try to get to Eyes on Exoplanets. All right, so now we're opening up the kiosk version of Eyes on Exoplanets. All of these are achieved through going through to eyes.nasa.gov. Exoplanets is a visualization of the NASA science, NASA Exoplanet Science Database. And from here, you can view exoplanets from Earth. You can look at the planet finders. Hey, let's go to the weirdest planets. There's always a planet count on the screen, so we've actually verified and confirmed 3726 planets orbiting 2779 stars. Okay, these are updated every evening based on discoveries and confirmations. So let's take a look at the warped world. And here you can rotate. You can see what it looks like. You can ask questions like, how big is it? So here we could compare with the Earth. Wow, it's much larger than the Earth. How about Saturn or Jupiter? About no comparison. Okay? And then you can move on to the next weirdest planet. Here we have our pink planet. And then back to the main menu. All right. You get the idea. All right? These are simplified versions. So here it shows you what would look like from Earth in the night sky. I've got it set a default at Washington, D.C. for the Smithsonian. But if I want to change, I can choose another location. Click anywhere on the Earth I wish, like from, let's say from New York. And now these are the exoplanets you'd see from New York. All these little buttons here, these little bright spots, are exoplanets that are visible from New York. And then if I want to say which ones are visible with the naked eye, all right, there you go. I'm going to go back to the main menu. I'm going to exit, and I want to finish by allowing you to ask questions, and I can, from there, from here, I can show you whatever you want to see. So I'm willing and able to take questions at this time, and I wasn't watching the clock. How did I do, Brooks, time-wise?
You're right on time, but we will, I'm going to grab the questions that people are asking, and we'll have a Q&A at the end that will address some of those questions, if that's okay with you.
Not a problem at all.
All right. Do you remember how to exit out of your screen? Yeah. Click on the Adobe icon.
I'm going to click this and say stop sharing.
Excellent.
And I should be back to normal.
You're back to normal, yeah. I don't know if you're ever back to normal, Kevin, but...
That's
Oh, me.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Kevin. Next up, we have Emma Marcucci. Emma is the Education and Outreach Scientist, which Brooks and I decided is the coolest title ever, and we're very jealous, at NASA's Universe of Learning.
All right, well, thank you for inviting me to come along here. So I am part of NASA's Universe of Learning, which is an informal education program that when we work with many of the other people that you've heard speak on this webinar. So there we go. So this is a partnership between STSCI, which is the Space Telescope Science Institute, which is where I normally live. I just happen to be in the area, so I popped over here for this webinar. We also work with IPAC at Caltech, the JPL Exoplanet Exploration Program, the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory, and the Sonoma State University. And what each of these partners represent is they have a hand in working in the education, the informal education, and the public outreach related to various astrophysics space telescopes. So the Hubble Space Telescope, the Spitzer Space Telescope, TESS, Kepler, Chandra, X-ray Space Telescope, the high-energy missions like Fermi and SWIFT. And this group of organizations has come together to be the NASA's Universe of Learning and to support learners of all ages and backgrounds to engage and immerse in exploring the universe for themselves. So our program is divided into 4 sets. We have data tools and participatory experiences. So these are hands-on activities, looking at actually engaging and using NASA data itself or collecting data and then processing data. We have multimedia and immersive experiences. So these are video series, visualizations, things that you can use to support and kind of grab some of those beautiful images and that kind of wonder of the universe. We have community programs and exhibits. So these are exhibits that can go around to libraries or other informal education venues. And we have one program, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail, but I talked about in a lot of detail last week, Girls Steam Ahead with NASA, and that is a direct partnership with libraries. And then we have professional learning experiences. And all of these various program elements, our key is to have a direct connection to NASA astrophysics, science, content, and or science, technology, and content experts. So because we have connections to all of those missions, we have direct connections to new news releases, to the scientists working on the missions, to the data coming out of the missions, and we try to put that into a package that can be usable across various venues. So I'm going to briefly go into some of the projects in each one of these categories that I think would be most interesting to you. Our website, it's in the chat box, thank you Greg, has more details on all of these projects and some of the projects that I'm not talking about today. So as I mentioned, Girls Steam Ahead with NASA. This is a partnership with libraries and other community-based organizations to provide programming specifically to support and encourage girls in STEM and so encourage their STEM identity. Amongst that, we have exhibits and posters. So we have a number of exhibits. We go into a little bit more detail in the other webinar if you had a chance to see that or look at the archive. And the exhibits are available in English. You can see that, and Spanish. They're pull-up versions like in the picture, or there's also poster versions that can be downloaded and printed. We have a couple nice poster series. The Women in STEM posters, which also if you're at ALA and you come by the NASA booth, we will have 100 sets of Spanish and 100 sets of English for first come, first serve.
Make that 99.
And these are a really great series that look at various women in NASA's history and how they've contributed to that. We also have we work with the exoplanet program at JPL, and they have wonderful travel posters for some of these exoplanets, which are very cool and also all available for download. We then also have an aspect of 3D learning and coding, and so there's kind of a scaffold of resources here. We have things like binary beads, so that's those safety pins with beading, which talks about how space telescopes collect data in binary code and how that gets translated into your images. We have coding activities. Recoloring the Universe is a very popular one. There are videos that walk you through the steps. And then you can take that to the next step and actually start working in Tinkercad and developing 3D models. And if you happen to have access through to a 3D printer, you can print them out. We also have the source files for 3D printing astronomical objects. So that's what you're seeing in the middle in the yellow there. And I'm going to go through all of these pretty quickly because there's a lot of them. But please feel free to ask any questions. So in the data tools and participatory experiences, I'll start with Astropix. This is a really great resource if you're looking for images. We have various images that represent different wavelengths, different astronomical objects, so a nebula or a galaxy. And in the middle there in the lower, most of these images have a color map. So it'll tell you what color in that picture is representing what wavelength. And so it's a nice way to talk about how our eyes can't necessarily see all wavelengths of light, but that through visualization processes we can see these and what space telescopes can see that our eyes can't. If you want to start processing your own images, you can go to Micro-Observatory. Micro-Observatory is a network of robotic telescopes, and you can, there are archived images that you can work with immediately, but you can also request an image overnight. So you might say, I want to look at the Orion Nebula. And so you click on the Orion Nebula, you choose what you think the exposure length should be, and it does guide you to the correct answer if you choose one that's too short. Overnight, it'll take the picture, and then you'll have an email the next morning saying, here's your image. And then you can pull that into a processing software, which is in the Micro-Observatory website, and actually learn how to process your image. How do you get the features to stand out? How do you need to balance the images? That you can see a comparison there in the lower corner of the Orion. And then if you want to take that even another step further, you can also process your own exoplanet data. So you can select, there's a calendar of exoplanets that are visible to the telescopes. You can say, I want to see the data from this planet, and you will get basically the light brightness data, and you reduce that, and there are videos that explain all of this, and then you see your curve and you can compare that to others in the community, or you could work in a group and create a light curve. So for multimedia, these are nice videos that you can use to support some of this learning. We have the Universe Unplugged, which are the kind of two upper left ones. And these use celebrities in them. So we partner with celebrities and we explain science topics. When Stars Go Boom has Will Wheaton and Jerika Hinton. The electromagnetic spectrum has the voice from GLaDOS, if you're familiar with that game. We also have visualizations. So these are available in 3D viewing. You can do fly-throughs, and they take you and actually put you inside the Orion Nebula, and you can see the different aspects. As Kevin just went into more detail, Eyes on Exoplanets is one of our partners. And so we have access, we work with them to provide information and back and forth. We also have ViewSpace. ViewSpace is a video loop that can play in your library. Right now we are just at about capacity of viewing, but they're working on some cloud sourcing solutions to be able to support more viewers. But there's a number of different series, looking at different lights, looking at current events, looking at different astronomical objects. There's also an interactive section where you can use sliders to move back and forth. And then our last program that I'm going to talk about, there we go, is professional learning experiences. And so like Amelia was talking about at the very beginning, we partner with the Museum Alliance to support and provide telecon information. And so we do telecons usually the first Thursday of each month. And we talk about various science themes. When possible, we put them in the context of special events, for example, Women's History Month or African American History Month, and also the breaking news. Again, that direct connection to the science allows us to know when these new releases are coming down the pipeline, and we're able to bring that information to you quickly. So I think that is, I might have one more slide that has contact information on it. There you go. So we are happy to support you guys however we can.
And again, I believe all those links are going to be in the link bank, and I included some additional ones, some like reports and whatnot from last week's webinar that I thought were helpful. Henry, I see that you found an answer to your question already. Great.
Excellent. So we are going to move on to our last speaker. Just a heads up to everyone, we are probably going to run a few minutes over. If your question hasn't been answered yet, not a problem. We'll answer it. We'll still be here, and then you can find it in the recording afterwards. So our next speaker is Brian Day. And Brian, I apologize. I'm staring at my notebook because you have too many titles. Brian is at NASA Ames Research Center, part of the NASA Solar System Exploration Research Virtual Institute. And Brian is going to show us some really cool stuff about the NASA Trek programs. And I thought if you're going to be at ALA, it looks like Brian's also going to have a Mars rock, so you'll have to knock me over to get to Brian.
Very good. Thank you very much. So what I'd like to do today is show you some examples of the NASA Solar System Treks. And these are tools that you can use in your libraries to actually help you tell stories, help you follow the stories that are coming out of NASA. So if we could switch, give me the ability to take control. I want to share my screen here. There we go. And let's see, I am going to ideally take us to Mars. So at this point, you should be seeing the surface of Mars. And this is, we'll use Mars Trek as an example today. We have portals for the moon, for asteroid Vesta, and more coming out. But this will allow you to say, follow examples as we get this coming Thursday. We're supposed to get exciting news from Gale Crater. Or this fall, we're going to have the landing of InSight. And so you can actually go to Mars. We can zoom in. We can pan. We can do a bunch of things. And you can follow these stories. You can conduct your own explorations. And you can view the surface of Mars as seen through the eyes of many different instruments on many different spacecraft. Right now, we are looking at Mars's Grand Canyon, Valles Marineris. And when I say grand, I mean really grand. This is actually, if you were to put it here on Earth, it would stretch from Los Angeles to Boston. But we can look at it through different eyes. So we're going from a view that you would have had just looking out the window to now a laser altimetry view. And in this view, blue is low, green is a little bit higher, yellow higher still. You get the idea. And we can do things like figure out how big an area are we looking at. So let's go ahead and we can calculate a distance. We can draw a line across any path we want here, and it will ideally tell us how long a path we have. There's over 3,900 kilometers. Let's draw another line. Here we will draw a line this time across the chasm, and we can generate an elevation profile. So you can measure the heights of mountains. You can measure the depths of craters. But as they say on TV, but wait, there's more. So what we will do now is you can actually draw a bounding box around any piece of terrain you want. And if you have a 3D printer, you can actually generate a 3D print, kind of like what I'm holding up here, of any piece of terrain you want. So that's pretty cool. And finally, in terms of tools, I'll show you the newest one we have is the Experience Trek VR, where you can actually draw a path across any part of the surface, and it will then generate a QR code. You can hold up a smartphone, and the smartphone will read it. You put the smartphone in a $2 Google Cardboard viewer, and you can take a VR tour. Now, we can also jump into a 3D mode here. So here we are in 3D mode. And look at the stories that are to tell here. We can see the ancient river channels moving across Mars. We can go flying. So we can fly into the surface here. We can fly down to Valles Marineris. And it's a lot smoother when we're not doing it as telecon, in a video conference mode. Reality is you can just take the controls and fly in to great detail. You can even go skimming across the surface of Mars at very low altitude. It's really pretty exciting. Now, the question is, where would you go to explore? Well, fortunately, we have a lot of neat abilities. So I'm going to switch here to another camera. For instance, here's a view of Valles Marineris in infrared. But we have these wonderful bookmarks that allow you to go to places we have currently been or already are. So here we'll zoom down to where the Spirit rover is currently roving, and we can go ahead and fly up along. We can see the path. We can look at waypoints along the way and see what Spirit discovered. So there are a lot of things that you can do here, a lot of things you can explore. We can even go back and we can zoom out and explore, quite frankly, upcoming areas. So one of the areas that we allow you to explore is, I'll pull up the menu here. We can take a look at the planned human landing sites on Mars. So there are quite a few things to explore here. I'm not going to give you the actual tour of all the controls today. I will be happy to set up a time with anyone who's interested and give a tutorial in actually using the Treks. I'll just point out today, though, that we have, again, Trek tools for Mars, for the Moon, And for the asteroid Vesta, we are currently working on Titan, on Ceres, on the other moons of Saturn, and we're working on something for Phobos. These are actual tools that are used for landing site selection and analysis, but we've got simplified entry points so that they're easy to use in your museums. So please feel free to contact me, and we will help you explore the solar system from within your own museum. So I'm going to stop sharing there, and hopefully we've got time for some questions.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you, Brian. So I believe now we're at the point where everybody can come back on that's been presenting. I know Amelia was changing location, so if you've been a presenter and you want to come back on into the video feed, we'll make that bigger. First question, Brian. Amelie was asking for your contact info, if you wanted to put your contact info into the chat box for her.
Absolutely. Let
me move some things around, make this a little bit more chat friendly.
You look like the Brady Bunch.
We do look like the Brady Bunch.
I'm often told I look like Marcia.
All right, let me make this chat box a little bit bigger. Oh, good, Sharon. I'm glad to hear that you appreciated everything. And so, Amelia, I know you already answered, but if you wanted to talk about how to join NASA's Museum Alliance.
Yeah, so if you go to the home page, which I put here in the chat and has been shared, there is a box called Join My Community. You just click on that, and hopefully this is obvious, but it is free to join. It is also very simple to join. The first person from your organization will have to put in like the address and all that stuff, but after that, anybody else who wants to join just would pull down the menu and click that they're from that particular library and put in their name and personal email and all that. If you have any questions, let me know. I can put my email in the chat box in a minute here.
Great. And then, let's see. So excited about the 3D printing possibilities, especially the moonscapes and Martianscapes. Did you also mention Enceladus? I believe that. Okay.
So we have a Titan Trek that's coming out, and then also what we call Icy Moons Trek. That'll be a number of the other icy moons of Saturn, and yes, you better believe it, Enceladus is going to be front and center on that list. Well, I'd just like to point out, too, that these are all web-based, all these treks. So there's nothing to purchase, nothing to install. You just point, preferably your Chrome browser, at our website, and it's all available to you.
And then, Amelia, I believe Annalie was asking, too, is there any way to join as an individual, or do you need to join as an organization?
Yeah, you join as an individual. You're just linked to an organization. So since the Museum Alliance is designed for informal education professionals, we just ask that everybody either be working in informal education or volunteering or somewhere. You just want to be associated with them.
Amelia, if for some reason people's libraries and or museums did not want to join, could our libraries list SSI as their organization since we're in the drop-down menu?
Yeah, they could do that. Although then if your organization is a member, you would appear on the map, the publicly available map, and so then your events and all that show up on the map for people to come to. So obviously, if you don't list your organization, that wouldn't happen. Ideally, I mean, unless you're in the Witness Protection Program, it'd be best if you put your own organization in, just so we can feel. Because we also, part of this is we need to be reporting to NASA and showing how useful this is. And if everybody signed up under one organization, then we'd say, oh, we have one member, and NASA would say, funding cut.
Good point.
Yes. And I see, Vivian, you've answered that question about the Night Sky Network and whether you can join as an individual. So clubs can join the Night Sky. I'll let you speak to that, Vivian.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you don't need to be a member to access any of the information on the site. So you can access all of the activities, as well as we have lots of webinars like these, but with NASA scientists. So talking about gravitational waves, talking about our next one coming up is on New Horizons. It's going to approach a new object pretty soon at the end of this year. So there are lots of resources on there, and those are all freely available to the public. So you are welcome to join your local astronomy club, but the clubs themselves join the Night Sky Network, and all of the information on the front page is freely available.
We'll give you guys just a few more, let's see, 30 seconds or so to get any last questions in there. I saw one person noted that all the resources, it's a little bit overwhelming having so many resources. I think that's a good problem to have. But, you know, if you ever, like, here's the program I want to do, or here's what we want to accomplish, and I don't know the NASA resource to get that done, you can always contact me or Annie, and we'd be happy to kind of steer you in the right direction. I think any of these folks would. Yep. And yeah, I know I've said it a few times, but you know, with Brian sharing the Trek program and Kevin sharing the Eyes On program, those do look. You saw the screen share version, which is a little laggy, but in real life they are very, very smooth, and it's like you're actually there. Waiting on the Mars bus information. And then for our NASA and my library partners, thinking about ways to use that tablet, the kiosk mode for Eyes on Exoplanets, when Kevin was talking about, that's kind of what popped in my head, if you're a member of that project. I see some folks are typing, so we'll... Kimberly, shoot us an email. I said that without knowing any of the technical capabilities whatsoever of that, so send me an email about adding it to your tablets, and we'll...
Did you hear that, Kevin? We need tablet capability.
Yeah.
Get on that.
And we are working on that as I speak.
Awesome.
And Jennifer, are you in like Cortez or Durango?
Red Feather, I think.
You're in Red Feather? Okay. You're Cortez. Awesome.
I'm such a liar. Wrong Jennifer.
Jennifer, I lived in Mancos before this, near your neck of the woods. All right, so I think I'll go ahead and close things out. Oh, Dolores, awesome, yeah. I'll go ahead and close things out. When you get, you'll get redirected to a survey. We would love your feedback on that survey. So if you'll do me a favor and let me close things out, we would love to hear. So thanks so much to all of our wonderful guests. I'll see some of you guys later this month. And, you know, we just hope to see you all soon and keep on working with you. So thanks again for joining.
You're welcome.
Bye.